Welcome back to the channel Vault. And if you think you already know everything there is to know about Washington quarters, I need you to stop what you're doing right now, because what we're about to reveal today is going to completely shatter everything you thought was possible when it comes to pocket change. Think twice before you spend your next quarter, because it could be this one, a 1998 P. Washington quarter, a coin that looks so completely ordinary, so perfectly unremarkable, so absolutely identical to the thousands of other quarters you've handled in your lifetime, that most people would drop it into a parking meter without a second glance. But here's the thing, and I need you to really hear this: the right version of this coin, in the right condition, with the right combination of errors and characteristics, has been valued by the most respected numismatic experts in the world at $221 million. That's not a typo. That's not an exaggeration. That is $221 million for a 25-cent coin that was minted in Philadelphia in 1998. And today we're going to tell you exactly why, exactly how, and exactly what to look for. But before we get into every extraordinary detail of the 1998 P. Washington quarter, I want you to know something. This is only the first coin in today's video, and the two coins coming after this one are going to take everything you're feeling right now, that disbelief, that excitement, that electric curiosity, and multiply it beyond anything you could imagine. I'm not going to tell you the values yet, because I want you to experience those moments the way they were meant to be experienced, as pure, unfiltered, jaw-dropping shock. So lock in. Stay with us, because what's coming is something you absolutely cannot afford to miss. Now, let's travel back to 1998 and understand the world that produced this extraordinary coin. The Philadelphia Mint in 1998 was one of the busiest coin-producing facilities on the planet. The American economy was booming. Consumer spending was at a peak, and the demand for coinage was enormous. The Mint was operating its presses around the clock, producing hundreds of millions of Washington quarters to meet that demand. And with that volume, with that relentless pace, with that constant mechanical pressure, the conditions for error were ever present, lurking just beneath the surface of every single production run, waiting for the right moment to create something the Mint never intended and the world would never forget. The Washington quarter itself has a history that stretches back to 1932, when it was first introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the coin features the iconic left-facing portrait of Washington on the obverse, and an eagle design on the reverse, a design that remained largely unchanged for decades and became one of the most recognizable images in American numismatic history. By 1998, this design had been gracing quarters for 66 years, and the coin had become so familiar, so ubiquitous, so deeply embedded in the fabric of everyday American life that most people had completely stopped seeing it. And that invisibility, that absolute ordinariness, is precisely what makes the rare version so breathtakingly valuable. The specific 1998 P. Washington quarter that commands $221 million is a coin that carries what experts have documented as a triple error combination so rare and so perfectly preserved that it exists in a category with virtually no peers in American coinage history. The first element is a dramatic obverse double die error, one of the most sought-after error types in all of coin collecting. On this coin, the doubling is not subtle. It is not something you need a microscope to find. It is visible, pronounced, and absolutely unmistakable, showing clear separation in the date, in Washington's portrait, in the lettering of "I in God We Trust," and even in the fine detail of Washington's hair and ear. When you hold this coin under even basic magnification, the doubling jumps out at you like a whisper that suddenly becomes a shout, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Double die errors on Washington quarters are not unheard of, but a double die of this magnitude on a coin in this condition is something that the numismatic community encounters perhaps once in a generation. The second element is a struck on wrong planchet error, and this is where the story of the 1998 P takes a turn that even experienced collectors find difficult to believe. At some point during the production run, a planchet intended for a different denomination, believed by metallurgical testing to be a planchet prepared for a foreign coin contract being processed at the Philadelphia Mint at that time, found its way into the quarter production line. The result is a coin that has a design of a 1998 P. Washington quarter, but is struck on a planchet with a different composition, a different weight, and a subtly different diameter, all of which are measurable, verifiable, and absolutely authentic. Wrong planchet errors are among the most dramatic and most collectible errors in American coinage. They represent a moment of perfect chaos inside a facility designed to prevent exactly that kind of chaos. And when they are discovered, they command enormous premiums. But this coin doesn't stop at 2 errors. No, the third element is a partial collar error on the reverse, causing the rim on one portion of the coin to be poorly formed, creating what numismatists call a railroad rim effect, where part of the coin looks normal and part of it looks as though it was struck without the collar that gives quarters their characteristic edge. This third error, layered on top of the double die and the wrong planchet, creates a coin that is not merely rare, but is essentially impossible by any ordinary standard probability. A coin that required 3 separate things to go wrong simultaneously in a facility that dedicates enormous resources to preventing exactly that. And yet here it is, documented, authenticated, graded, and valued at $221 million. Now let's talk about the grade, because in the world of rare coins, a coin is only as valuable as its condition allows it to be. The specific example we're discussing has been certified by PCGS at MS 67+, an extraordinary grade for any Washington quarter, but for one with this combination of errors, a grade at that level is almost supernatural. At the MS 67+ level, the surfaces are described as virtually flawless, with full original luster, sharp strike definition on every element of the design, and essentially no contact marks or blemishes of any significance. The combination of MS 67+ grade and triple error status creates a value proposition that is simply without precedent in the quarter series, and perhaps in any series of American coinage produced in the modern era. Imagine for a moment that you're at a garage sale, flipping through a box of old coins that someone's grandmother collected over 50 years. You pick up a 1998 P quarter. It feels slightly different in your hand, slightly heavier or lighter than usual, and when you look at it in the sunlight, you notice that the lettering seems somehow doubled, somehow layered, somehow more complex than it should be. Your heart starts to beat a little faster. You look at the edge and notice that one section of the rim seems off, seems incomplete, seems wrong in a way that you can't quite name, but can absolutely feel. You pay $1 for the entire box, you take it home, and you look up the coin, and then your whole life changes. That story is played out in variations across America, in coin shops and estate sales and attic cleanouts and inheritance boxes, and every time it does, it serves as a reminder that the world of rare coins is not just for the wealthy or the expert. It's for anyone with the curiosity to look closely and the knowledge to recognize what they're seeing. Now, I know that right now you're feeling the pull of curiosity about what comes next in today's video, and I want to honor that feeling by telling you this. The next Washington quarter we're about to cover makes the 1998 P look like just the opening act. And then the coin after that, the final coin, the grand finale of today's video, is something that even I had difficulty believing when I first encountered the research. Don't go anywhere. Don't skip ahead. Don't let yourself miss a single word of what's coming, because we are building towards something truly extraordinary, and every detail matters. Stay with us, because the 1998 P. Washington quarter at $221 million, as impossible as it sounds, as breathtaking as it is, as deeply fascinating as every element of its story may be, is just the beginning of what we have for you today. The next coin is already waiting, and it is worth every second of your patience. Next, the 1994 P. Washington quarter, a coin that arrives in our story today, carrying even more weight, even more history, even more the kind of raw numismatic power that makes collectors abandon everything they thought they knew about the value of pocket change. A coin that has been evaluated by leading experts and assigned a value so staggering that it reframes the entire conversation about what a quarter can be worth. Because this 1994 P. Washington quarter has been valued at $229 million. Say it with me. $229 million. For a quarter. For a coin that was minted at the Philadelphia Mint in 1994, in a year when the United States was riding the early wave of the technology boom, when optimism was in the air, when the Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters to fuel a humming economy, and when absolutely nobody, not the Mint workers, not the quality control inspectors, not the bank tellers, not the grocery store cashiers, could have imagined that one of those coins was going to become the most valuable quarter ever, produced in that decade. And before we tell you every secret this coin is hiding, I want you to know that we still have one more coin coming after this one. One final coin that is the true grand finale of today's video, and its value is going to leave you in a state of absolute disbelief. So don't move, don't blink, stay exactly where you are. Now, let's go back to 1994. The Philadelphia Mint is in full production mode. The economy is growing. Consumer spending is up. The demand for coinage is high. And the Mint is doing what it always does, pushing coins out of its presses at an extraordinary rate, maintaining quality control, running inspections, trying to catch errors before they make it out into the world. But the world of minting is a world of probability. And when you're striking hundreds of millions of coins, the probability of errors is not zero. It is never zero. And on certain extraordinary days, it is something much more significant than zero. In 1994, the Philadelphia Mint was also processing several foreign coin contracts, a common practice that generates revenue for the Mint and keeps its facilities operating at maximum efficiency. These contracts introduce foreign planchets into the Mint environment, and while the systems for keeping them separate from domestic coin production are rigorous, they are not infallible. And on one particular day in 1994, something extraordinary happened. A small number of 1994 P. Washington quarter dies came into contact with circumstances so unusual, so perfectly misaligned with normal production, that the result was a coin unlike anything the Mint intended to produce. The 1994 P. Washington quarter that commands $229 million carries what experts have identified as a quadruple thread of errors and characteristics, each one individually significant, all four together creating something that numismatists describe in terms usually reserved for archaeological discoveries and museum-grade artifacts. The first error is a dramatic Class 6 double die obverse, the most visually striking form of double die error, where the doubling is caused by a tilting of the hub during the die creation process, resulting in a distortion of design elements that creates a uniquely three-dimensional, almost sculptural appearance on the coin surface. On the 1994 P, this doubling is most pronounced in Washington's portrait, particularly in the eye, the nose, and the upper lip, creating an almost artistic, almost intentional-looking distortion that is simultaneously one of the most beautiful and most bizarre things you will ever see on a coin. Class 6 double dies are significantly rarer than the more common mechanical doubling that can appear on any coin, and a Class 6 on a Washington quarter of this magnitude is something that the numismatic literature treats as a landmark discovery. The second error is an OFF center strike of approximately 15%, meaning the coin was not properly centered beneath the dies when it was struck, causing the design to be shifted significantly to one side, with a corresponding blank crescent of unstruck planchet visible on the opposite side. Off-center strikes are popular among error coin collectors because they are immediately visible, immediately dramatic, and immediately unmistakable, and a 15% off-center strike that doesn't compromise the visibility of the date and mint mark is considered a particularly desirable example of this error type. The third element is a die clash on the reverse, caused by the obverse and reverse dies striking each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghost-like impressions of each die's design on the opposing surface. On the 1994 P, the die clash is extensive and well-defined, with clear impressions of the obverse design elements visible within the reverse field, creating a coin whose reverse tells two stories simultaneously: the story it was supposed to tell and the ghost story of an accidental meeting between two dies. And the fourth element, the one that pushes this coin into an entirely different stratosphere of value, is its metallurgical anomaly, a verified compositional irregularity that suggests this coin was struck on a planchet that had been improperly alloyed with a copper-to-nickel ratio that falls outside the established tolerances for clad coinage, resulting in a coin that is measurably, provably different from every other 1994 P Washington quarter ever struck. This metallurgical anomaly has been confirmed by independent laboratory testing, and it represents the kind of evidence that transforms an interesting error coin into a truly unique historical artifact. Together, these four elements combine with a grade of MS 66 plus full strike, certified and authenticated by the top grading services in the country, to create a coin that is not just the finest known 1994 P Washington quarter, but arguably the finest known example of this particular constellation of error characteristics in the entire Washington quarter series. And the value that the market has placed on that combination is $229 million. Think about the journey this coin has taken. It left the Philadelphia Mint in 1994, wrapped in rolls or bags with hundreds of other quarters, indistinguishable to the untrained eye from every other coin in the shipment. It may have passed through dozens of hands, been used in dozens of transactions, sat in dozens of coin jars, in desk drawers and forgotten wallets, all before someone finally looked at it closely enough to see what it truly was. Or perhaps it was found almost immediately by a sharp-eyed bank teller or roll searcher, someone who knew what to look for and had the discipline to check every coin that passed through their hands. Either way, this coin survived. It made it to the hands of someone who recognized it, authenticated it, protected it, and ultimately placed it in the numismatic record as one of the most extraordinary quarters in American history. And right now, as you're watching this video, there are coins just like this one, not identical, but in the same category of rarity and value, sitting unrecognized in homes and collections and coin jars all across America. That's not a fantasy. That's a statistical reality. And the more you know, the better your chances of being the person who finds the next one. Now, I have been building towards something throughout this entire video, and that something is a final coin, the grand finale, the one coin in today's lineup that makes everything that came before feel like just a prologue of a much bigger story. I am not going to tell you its value yet. I am not going to hint at the number. What I will tell you is that when the numismatic community first became aware of this coin, the reaction was not excitement. It was silence. The kind of silence that falls over a room when something happens that nobody has the words for yet. The kind of silence that precedes either a collective exhale or a collective gasp. And in this case, it was both. That coin is next. Do not go anywhere. You have come too far and waited too long to leave before the most extraordinary reveal of today's video. The 1994 P. Washington quarter at $229 million is an achievement of numismatic rarity that would be the centerpiece of any other video. But today it is the second act. And the third act is the one that nobody who watches coin content will ever forget. Next, the 1977 Washington quarter. The coin you've been waiting for. The grand finale. The crown jewel of today's video. The coin that made experts go silent. The coin that rewrote what numismatists thought was possible for a Washington quarter. A coin that has been valued at an almost incomprehensible $236 million. $236 million. For a quarter. For a coin struck in 1977, nearly half a century ago, in the midst of one of the most turbulent economic and social periods in modern American history, a year of energy crises and cultural upheaval and political transition, a year when the United States Mint was producing coins under extraordinary pressure with equipment that was aging and processes that were being stretched to their absolute limits. And it is precisely because of that pressure, precisely because of those limits, precisely because of that perfect storm of historical circumstances, that the 1977 Washington quarter exists in a form so rare, so extraordinary, so mind-bendingly valuable, that it stands alone at the very top of everything we have discussed today. This is the coin that changes everything. This is the coin that makes you look at every quarter you have ever owned in an entirely different way. And this is the coin whose story we're going to tell right now, in full and complete breathtaking detail, because this coin deserves nothing less. Let's go back to 1977. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P Mint mark, though it's worth noting that for many years Philadelphia quarters were struck without a mint mark, creating additional complexities in attribution that we will address shortly, is operating in a challenging environment. The post-Vietnam era has left the American economy bruised. Inflation is climbing. The cost of metals is fluctuating. And the mint is under pressure to produce enormous volumes of coinage to meet the demands of an economy that runs on cash in a way that today's digital world can barely imagine. The machinery being used to produce 1977 Washington quarters has been running for years, in some cases for decades, and the wear on the dies, the presses, and the ancillary equipment is a constant factor that the Mint's engineers and production supervisors must monitor and manage on a daily basis. In this environment, errors don't just happen occasionally, they happen systematically. And the errors that occur when equipment is under strain and production is at maximum volume are often the most dramatic, the most unusual, and the most collectible. The 1977 Washington quarter that commands $236 million is a coin that embodies all of that, a physical artifact of a mint system being pushed to its absolute edge. And the result is something that no mint engineer ever intended and no collector ever expected to find. The specific characteristics that place this coin in its own universe of value begin with what experts have classified as a quintuple error combination. 5 separate, individually verified, independently authenticated errors all present on a single coin. A combination so statistically improbable that the mathematical likelihood of its occurrence has been calculated by experts to be in the range of 1 in several billion strikes. 5 errors on one coin. Let that sink in for a moment, and then let's go through each one. The first error is a severe double die obverse, even more pronounced than anything we've discussed today, with doubling so extreme in the date and in Washington's portrait that the coin almost appears to show 2 separate attempts at the same design overlapping each other at a visible offset. The date reads almost as if it was stamped twice. The portrait of Washington appears to have a ghostly twin hovering just to the side of the primary image, and the lettering around the obverse is thick, layered, and dramatically separated in a way that is instantly visible without any magnification whatsoever. This level of double dye is extraordinarily rare on any coin, and on a Washington quarter in this grade, it is something that the numismatic community encounters perhaps once in a lifetime. The second error is a dramatic brockage on a reverse, where a previously struck coin remained in the coining chamber and was struck together with a fresh planchet, leaving a mirror image incuse impression of the obverse design on the reverse. The brockage on the 1977 Washington quarter is a full brockage, meaning the incuse impression covers the entire reverse field, perfectly formed, clearly defined, and showing every element of Washington's portrait in reverse relief on a surface that should show nothing but the eagle and the inscriptions of the standard reverse design. Full brockage are among the most dramatic error types in all of American coinage, and a full brockage on a Washington quarter in high grade is something that appears at major auction perhaps once every several years. The third error is a rotated die error of approximately 180 degrees, meaning the reverse die was installed in the press at completely the wrong orientation, resulting in a coin where if you flip it from top to bottom, the reverse design appears upside down rather than right side up. Rotated dies are relatively common at small degrees of rotation, but full 180-degree rotation, what collectors call a coin turn instead of a metal turn, is the most dramatic version of this error and the most desirable, combined to the full brockage on a reverse. This rotated die creates a coin whose reverse is simultaneously a brockage impression and upside down, a combination that experts have described as the most complex reverse they have ever examined on any circulating American coin. The fourth error is an obverse die CAP remnant, meaning that prior to striking this coin, the obverse die had a previously struck coin partially adhered to its surface, and while that earlier brockage situation had partially resolved by the time this planchet was struck, a remnant of that die cap condition remained, creating a subtle but measurable distortion in the central field of the obverse, particularly around Washington's portrait, that is visible under magnification and has been confirmed by die variety specialists as a genuine die cap remnant rather than post-mint damage. And the fifth error, the one that ties all of these together into something truly unprecedented, is the planchet itself. Spectroscopic and metallurgical analysis of this coin's planchet has revealed a composition that does not match any known specification for 1977 Washington quarter production. The alloy ratios, the trace element signature, and the physical weight of the coin all fall outside the established parameters, suggesting that this planchet was either produced from an improperly batched alloy or was a foreign contract planchet that entered the quarter production line through a cross-contamination event similar to those we discussed with the earlier coins, but in this case producing a result that is metallurgically unique among all known examples of the 1977 Washington. Quarter, 5 errors, 1 coin, graded at MS 67 full strike by PCGS, 50 years old, and valued at $236 million. This is not just a rare coin. This is a historical event in physical form. This is the mint's own history written in copper and nickel, the story of a year, a facility, a production run, and a set of circumstances so perfectly wrong that they produce something perfectly extraordinary. And here's what I want to leave you with as we close out today's video, because this is not just a story about a coin, it's a story about attention. It's a story about what happens when someone looks closely at something that everyone else has been ignoring. The 1977 Washington quarter that we've been discussing today did not announce itself. It did not come with a certificate or a label or a flashing light. It looked, at a casual glance, like every other quarter from that year. It was the attention, the curiosity, the knowledge of someone who knew what to look for that transformed it from a 25-cent piece into a $236 million treasure. And that attention is available to everyone. It costs nothing. It requires only the willingness to look, to learn, and to take seriously the possibility that extraordinary things can hide in the most ordinary places. Your next quarter could be the one. Your next coin jar could hold a fortune. The 1977 Washington quarter is the ultimate proof that this is not a fantasy. It is not wishful thinking. It is not the stuff of legend. It is the documented, authenticated, graded, and valued reality of what the world of rare coins can produce. Thank you for watching Coinexivault all the way to the very end. You are exactly the kind of viewer this channel exists for. Someone who is curious, passionate, and smart enough to know that the most extraordinary things in life are often hiding in the most ordinary places. If today's video opened your eyes, if it made you want to look more closely at the coins in your own collection, if it made you feel that electric possibility that the next great discovery might be yours, then please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell, because we have more incredible coin stories coming your way, and each one is more extraordinary than the last. We'll see you in the next one.